We're live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to TrendSpider Live. My name is Mike, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Dr. Tushar Chande. He is the creator of many custom indicators here on the TrendSpider platform. So, Tushar, go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little bit about your background.
Hi, Mike. Hi, everybody. So glad you could join us this morning or this afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are. My background is primarily as a systematic trend follower. I was a CTA and a hedge fund type for a very long time. So I tend to have very disciplined trading approaches. So I'm from the futures side. So the way I think about it is that you want to have a process, a set of rules that you can use over and over again. And you can have two types of entries. You can have a trend following entry, that is, you buy strength or sell weakness, or you can have a counter trend entry, which would be you buy weakness and sell strength. But once you're in the trade, the entry rules kind of go to one side and you're strictly driven by the exit rules. So if you look
Right.
at my indicators, they essentially either give you separate entries and separate exits, or they give you combined entries and combined exits. And the blast indicator is a primarily counter trend buy weakness kind of system or rule set. And then the paraband or the band based systems or the pharma based systems are basically trend following, where you want to buy a breakout outside the band or sell the breakout below the band.
Yeah.
And then
No.
particularly, so that's sort of my basic background. I like to look at momentum. I like to trade breakouts, and I'm kind of a long-term trader. But obviously, if you switch from a daily chart to a 5-minute chart, you can use the same technology for intraday trading. So
Of
it's
course.
very powerful, very flexible, and is not dependent on any particular unique market feature. So very robust rules.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited to go over all of your indicators. Today, you guys, we have RKLB reporting, we have OXY reporting, ASTS, a lot of big tickers reporting earnings today, also CoreWeave. So, Tushar, I'll give you the stage here, and maybe we can kind of take a look at the daily charts and maybe RKLB to start, since they're reporting here after the bell in just about 15 minutes or so. So maybe we can use your indicators, which, by the way, all these indicators, you guys, we just dropped a link for them. Right now, TrendSpider is running a Black Friday sale, and you can sign up to get the platform for just $5. You can get a trial for $5, get access to it for 14 days, and you can get several of Chande's indicators here for free for 6 months. And so once you sign up using the Black Friday sale, we have the links down below to all of Tushar's indicators. You can use the coupon code that we're going to drop in the chat, sign up, and get access to basically all these indicators for just $5. Well, for them specifically, we'll cover which ones. You got the blast indicator, the arch indicator, FAMA, and PALS indicator you can get for free. But yeah, let's take a look at, OXY or RKLB, Tushar, and let's see how they're lining up going into these earnings reports.
Okay, we'll start with Oxy.
Okay.
Now, down below here, we have the chats indicator, which is the Chande absolute trend strength. So if it's in the green region, the trend is strong and up. If it's in the pink or red region, the trend is strong down. And the scale is plus 100 to minus 100.
Right.
And in the upper area, we have a band. So the blue line is the center. Then we have a 2-unit plus 2-unit band up above the green line and the red line. So when the prices are below the red line or the red lower band, the trend is down and we painted red. So clearly, Oxy, the trend is down. As far as the trend follower, you'd be short or out. And you can confirm that by looking down here.
Pretty weak. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's look at Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab clearly had a strong trend during the summer, has retrenched, and now the momentum is sort of neutral, and it's just gone below the band, but hasn't quite painted red yet. And interestingly, if you just switch the blast indicator on here, you see that you'd have to have a close above the green line or a low above the green line to trigger a long entry. So it's still sort of in a neutral zone. And then let's
Interesting.
look at ASTS. This
Yeah.
is the blast indicator by strength after weakness. So we've had the weakness here, and you'd have to again have some action above this line to get sort of an entry. And again, a strong move up. You see the reading here was plus 100, so we know it's a strong uptrend. And then if you wanted to go counter trend, there was some weakness here. You buy our strength after weakness, and then that'll be your trailing stop, and you'd have exited somewhere there. So that gives you a sense for the two types of entries. And then, for example, here we can go back to the band indicator, and clearly the band showed you the green region and caught the uptrend,
Yeah.
And then
So
we have a trailing stop to help you decide whether you want to exit. Let's look at Rigetti.
yeah.
Same thing, very strong uptrend earlier in the year. The momentum was plus 100, so you know we have a strong trend. And then right now it's in the neutral area, it's between the bands, and the momentum is neutral. So really have to wait for a breakout. And then let's look at Plug Power. Same thing, just like Rigetti, strong move up. Now retracement is neutral. It's come down enough to kind of trigger a short side move because we have this the uh, the downside exit just starting to plot. And then if you look at CoreWeave is kind of the same story. We had this big move up, came back down, and now we had a downtrend, and we have another downtrend here. So unless we have a rebound, the downtrend is in force, and there's not enough data to compute the chats indicator. And then if you want to just flip the indicators for just a minute, to blast again, we need close above say 120 or a low above 120 to really give us any confidence that we're having a meaningful reversal. And then
Yeah.
if you look at Big Bear, again, momentum is neutral, need more upside action. And then if we close blast and go to Paraband, uh, just as we'd expect, it's painting red, so technically we're in a downtrend, with this particular logic.
Yeah. So maybe Tushar, for maybe people that are more beginners into all this stuff right here, maybe we can just do like a quick overview. And your indicators do make trend following and counter trend trading incredibly easy to read. As you can see on the chart right now that Tushar has up, there are some candles where the background is, painted a light green, which is basically the times that you want to be in a long position, right? And then when it's painted light red and it's, starting to trend lower, that's essentially when you definitely don't want to be long, if anything short. And then all those dotted lines sitting there on the chart, for example, if you're in the long trade in one of those green regions, you would use those lines essentially as an exit target because, when you're, I'm curious actually, Tushar, on your opinions on this, but, when you're following trends, I guess there's like kind of two different ways to exit. I guess maybe there's specifically one that you use, which is like a trailing stop. You wait for the trend to break. But what do you think about the difference between selling into strength versus using these trailing stops?
Okay, so let's take a step back. So the basic assumption behind trend following is that you don't know how long the trend is going to last, so the time
Mm-hmm.
component,
Right.
nor do you know the amplitude of the move.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get ahead of the trend and you sell into strength, then you're assuming that the duration is whatever you picked it to be, and it's going to go no higher and is not going to last any longer than where you are getting out, right?
Right.
And of course, the markets are random. We don't really know how long a particular trend is going to go on. So every now and then you'll pick the right trend
Yep.
or the right exit if you get out ahead of the trend.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you're going to miss some mega trends. And if you look at the
Right.
history of trend following returns, it's one or two or three mega trends that make all the difference in your portfolio.
Very true.
So that's
Very
why you
true.
want to use sort of this trailing stop, which can be painful to hold on to sometimes. But
Yes.
if you think of a 5-year horizon or a 10-year horizon, if you miss one or two mega trades, your performance will be, not that exciting.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So basically, you definitely want to stay in the trend until it breaks. And your indicators, honestly, like amazing way to do that. If you see here, maybe pull up like RKLB. I think that was one that looked. Which one was the one that was in? Yeah, this one had tons of those green shaded areas. And if you try to sell, like for example, all the way to the left over there, you would have missed a whole nother leg of the trend. Well, I guess it did kind of fall down into the red zone
Sure.
again.
So,
But
if you don't mind, let's look at WDC.
yeah, for sure.
This is Western Digital. So
Hmm.
when the trend started here, it clearly painted it to be green,
Yeah.
and the momentum was just green, but not 100. Now, really, how many people would have predicted that you're going to go all the way to 175, let's say,
Right.
and it would keep going. So the benefit of using a trailing stop is you don't have to let the market get you in and let the market get you out, right? So
Right.
you don't have to make any decisions on where the high is. Is this the high? Is that the high? Is this the top? Is that the
Exactly.
top? And so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It just keeps
if
you in.
you,
Yeah.
for
Because
example, capture this one trade, you're going to be really happy about it. And
of
this way you have
course.
a process. You can check once a week, once a day, whatever, to make sure that the trend is up. And okay, I'm just going to keep following it.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Yeah, because again, there's plenty of different places where you could have, sold a quote unquote top in this chart, but then you would have ended up missing, who even knows like how much extra returns that you could have had by using the trailing stop. So yeah,
Right.
very, very good insight there.
Let me just show you one chart that I think really sums it up for me. There's not enough data, but I just want to emphasize the value of following a trend. Now look
Hmm.
at SanDisk. It has had the most unbelievably, ridiculously awesome trend.
Yeah.
And I could have found a million reasons to get out here or there or there or there, and I'm convinced this is it, this is it,
Exactly.
and just keep going like gangbusters.
Yep.
So this is the value of trend following. Like if you find one of these a year, you're going to be doing just fine, believe me.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because just one of these trades will make up for a lot of the other trades, because you're going to get stopped. Like in trend following, the win rate is generally not super high, but those big winners are really what pay the
Right.
bills, right?
So the
So
way you think about trend following is there are two main things. One is percentage positive trades, the percentage winning trades, like how often do you win?
yep,
And the second is the ratio of the average winning trade to the average losing trade.
yep,
So if you can get the ratio of your average winning trade to your average losing trade greater than 3, then you could only have say 45 to 50% winning trades and still be very profitable.
exactly,
And
exactly.
where your average win trade divided by average losing trade really bumps up and explodes is when you get a trend like this, because
Yep,
this is going to really improve your trading performance. And remember, right now we can look at the whole chart and say, well, it's obvious we should have stayed with this trend. But really, when it started here, it's not at all obvious where it's going to go.
yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
that's just food for thought when you think of trend following.
Yep. No, 100%. So maybe let's take a look at some of the stocks going into earnings today and see
Okay.
if any of them are in these strong uptrends. It looks like a lot of them maybe not. Like Oxy's down here, more so in a downtrend. Rocket Lab has taken a little bit of a pullback. Let's see. How is RGTI looking on that chart?
Even that is pulled back. See the
Yeah, even that. So there's a great example of a trailing stop exit there. If
right.
anything, you got in, held the trade. Obviously, you're never going to sell. You're never going to buy the bottom. You're never going to sell the top. But it's a great example of a pretty fundamental trend following trade right there. You held it up through a very nice trend. Got entered pretty low in hindsight, of course, but then it came down. And so once the stock is kind of in this position right here, you're pretty much just not looking at it, right? You're just
No.
looking for other opportunities.
Right. And if
Yeah.
I just take a slight detour, I like to call it detour, you can adjust the speed of the exit. So this indicator comes with 5 built-in speeds. So if I go to a speed of say 3 and see what happens to the yellow dots, they're all
Okay.
the way
Yeah.
over here instead of over there or over here.
Yep.
So if based on your trading expertise or just level of comfort, think that maybe the trend may be going to change, you could certainly change the speed of your exit. You can make it go faster. So you can still use trend following, but you can make it go faster. If I change it to 2, you see now it's further down. It's not moving as quickly towards prices.
Mhm.
And then just for completeness, let's go to 5 just to give you a sense for it. And you see 5 moves like very, very rapidly, and you would have been stopped out once here, maybe you re-entered there, then you would have been stopped out much closer to the top.
Yeah.
So
No,
now
makes
this is
sense.
after the fact, right? So obviously in real time, it's hard to know what the right speed should be. So I tend to use just a speed of 1 or 2. If you look at 2, I caught most of the trade, but obviously there was a pretty significant pullback before I could get out. So this is again a sort of a personal preference, but I think that for most people, a speed of 1 or 2 or even 3 would
Okay.
be okay, and 5 is probably almost too fast.
Gotcha. So yeah, yeah, definitely personal preference, but there is definitely some more optimal settings, right? You said somewhere between 1 and 4 basically is
Yeah,
probably ideal.
I would choose 1 or 2 for for most people.
Yeah.
Uh, but of course, you have to remember that you can play all sorts of games. You can go from, say, if you went from, say, daily chart to 2 hour chart, then you
Yep.
see that even a speed of 1 would have given you an exit here and then an exit there, which would be faster than before or slower than before, depending on exactly how it triggers. So you can speed things up. So if I go to a 4 hour chart, you see it would have gone more or less the same as a daily chart. So there are games you can play, but 1 or 2 is, I think, over the long period of time will be fine. If you're
Yeah.
uncomfortable, you can always go faster.
Yeah. Awesome. So let me add my charts here, take over real quick because the market did just close and we should start getting some moves here for earnings. Looks like we got CoreWeave starting to move up a little bit. As you can see here, I have the FAMA indicator on my chart, which is a very nice, just 3 bands, very simple and easy to read. I actually love having this on the multi-symbol view right here. Allows us to easily see, just basic lines of support and resistance. But let's see what is happening into close. Looks like a lot of these stocks are starting to get some movement, but nothing too crazy yet. I'm curious, Chande, what is your opinion on, because we're looking at the 1 minute chart here as we,
Right.
look into earnings, just so we can see the move in real time.
Right.
Um,
So if you look
you,
at, I have the 1 minute CoreWeave chart up as well,
yeah,
and let me just put the yes. So now I've put the after hours numbers on,
let's see,
and
I'll put
I'll
you
just
back
open
up
this up
real
a little
quick.
bit so we can see it more clearly.
Yeah,
Clearly, we've got a move up, right? And it's painted green. So on the 1 minute chart, we are moving higher, and the trend strength is 100 or close to it. So the trend is higher. So we're getting an upside reversal on a 1 minute chart, but obviously it's a very volatile chart, and it could, we don't know what it's going to do. But
exactly.
there you go.
Yeah. Pull up ASTS real quick, actually, for us. It looks like
Okay,
that
let me.
one just got a little bit of move to the downside. But
Right, it
I was
sold
curious
off,
on
and now.
your opinion on trend following on lower time frames, because I know a lot of trend followers, like you say, you also prefer like a daily chart, which makes sense. It's longer term. But I'm curious if what do you think of trend following on something as low as like the 5 minute, 1 hour, or just the lower time frames?
Right. I think that if you want to trade an index or something like a QQQ, which is sort of like an index, then for them a 5 minute chart or a 3 minute chart is still pretty reasonable. But
Okay.
for many individual stocks, there's this chopping around. There's no really trends you can use. So, for example, if you go to SPX, we have a 1 minute chart. You can see that we got a nice breakout here, and you would have had a trailing stop that you could have used to exit at a pretty reasonable level. So
Hmm.
on an index, you can use it very well. Let's see. And if you go further back, for example, here's a little sell-off in the S&P 500. Of course, you'd have to do it with futures or something. And it went below the lower band, got painted red. We had a nice trailing stop, got stopped out, re-entered, and then stopped out over there. So you could use them, but for many individual stocks that don't have a lot of volume, they just chop around, and they're not much fun to trade. Like Nvidia is a good example. This is a 1 minute chart. For example, here we had a little sell-off. We could have captured that, but I don't know how many people are trading. But let's say a 5 minute chart on Nvidia gives you a little better view of the couple of days of sell-off we had earlier last week and earlier this week, and you could have traded that. But again, uh, I think I don't know how many people, or Tesla would be a good example, which is very active and has lots of
Yeah.
participation. So
Hmm.
again, nice sell-off over there, and you could have captured most of it. You could have used a higher speed if you wanted. But then this is a typical problem that you get. You get these false breakouts because of reversals, and you might get like a single bar that goes outside the band. So uh, obviously, if you shorten the time frame, it gets choppier. So there's a trade-off in terms of the chopping around versus trending.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Real quick, I'm going to throw my multi-symbol view charts on the stage so we can see if we have any movement here in these earnings. A lot of people are asking about BBAI.
Let's try
It looks like we
BBAI.
don't have anything crazy going on yet. Everything is really, has gone up and down a little bit, but no
Corey was
crazy
rallying, and
movements
then
yet.
Rigetti looks like plug power sold off and is bouncing back again.
Yeah,
Rigetti had a big bar up, but looks like it's still chopping around. So that's
yeah,
part of the problem when you go on a very short time frame.
yeah,
Things move around. I mean, can you move faster than the market? Maybe, maybe not.
yeah. Maybe need like, yeah, you're basically competing with the, the HFT firms essentially, right?
Right.
So yeah,
You're competing as a high frequency traders, and they're obviously moving much 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 faster than an individual could.
yeah, 100%. Definitely faster than probably a retail trader. But
The
when you're running,
dynamic.
hedge funds, did you have any intraday strategies that you guys would run, or are you mostly on the longer term?
I mean, mostly in the longer term. I have not. So when I was trading, the exchanges themselves were not highly automated, and they would not give us direct access to the trading. We had to go through the pits and so forth. So that kind of slowed things down quite a lot. Towards the
Yeah,
end of my trading process, they were just the exchanges were willing to let the only very large traders have direct access to the floor and so on. Now it has improved, and people, more and more people can access it. So I didn't particularly find intraday trading profitable. I did do it, but mostly I did it sort of in a roundabout way where I would buy weakness at the end of the day or something and hold it for a few days or 2 3 days.
yeah,
But it's very
makes
hard
sense.
to do intraday when I was trading simply because the technology was not available.
Yeah, no, that's fair. What years were you trading?
So 95 through 2011. So
Okay.
1994 through 2011. So long time.
Yeah, you traded through some pretty crazy times then.
Tell me
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, it must have been crazy back then, especially, everything emerging. Like that was, 94 is like basically this almost, the beginning of like the .com, like all just the internet, hype in
Yeah.
general. So
And remember, I only traded the futures market, so I always had a pulse of what is happening around the world because we would trade the Pacific Rim markets as well as the European markets.
yeah, no, very cool. But let's see here. Do we have any moves coming
Oxy's
out
rallying
yet?
looks like it's breaking out to the upside.
Which
40,
one?
42 Oxy.
Oh, Oxy. Let's take a look at Oxy. Put that up here. Oh yeah, Oxy is definitely getting a move to the upside for sure. Looking pretty good. It looks like since close. Let me see. Is this on? This is put the after hours settings here. It should have already been on. There we go. Yeah, Oxy. Interesting move. Been pretty choppy since close, but definitely a little bit to the upside. Let's see. It's like RGTI is coming down a decent bit since close. RGTI is down about 3%. So
Right.
decent move
Again,
there.
if you look at the intraday or the minute chart, we had a little weakness, then a big bounce up, then again a reversal, and now a bounce. So you can imagine it's so hard to capture it for a retail trader because
Oh
by the time
yeah,
you decide you want to trade, the move is you know well
yeah.
past where you want it, where you thought you were going to be.
No, exactly, and especially right. I mean, trading earnings too. I mean, it's absolutely kind of just crazy. Especially after hours, the liquidity is not very good. So
And you have
yeah, it
these
would be
limit
tough.
orders, so that kind of also affects where you can
Yeah,
get in.
definitely. Yeah, but nothing too insane move wise yet. So probably here in like 10 minutes or so once well, because a lot of the earnings come out like 3 minutes ago or like 10 minutes after. Let's see when
Sometimes 20 minutes after,
RKLB.
depending on how big the company is, I guess.
For sure, for sure. RKLB is scheduled for 1:15,
Right.
which is in 6 minutes. So we should get a nice little move there. Core Weave scheduled should be technically out already.
It
Oh,
looks like it did a big
CRWV.
bounce
Looks
up to
like that
110.
just skyrocketed up here. Very nice move on Core Weave. Let me make sure you guys can see that all the way at the bottom right. Let me put this right here so we can see it a little bit better. But very nice move to the upside there on Core Weave. Let's see how big that move is
It
from
went from
close.
105 to 110 roughly in less than a
Yeah,
minute, so or in a
yeah,
minute.
yeah. So that's about 4-ish%. Looks like.
Yeah, about 4.6%, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So pretty nice move. Pretty nice move. I
Right.
think that one is looking pretty good on the daily, if I can't remember. But we'll take a
Yeah,
look at
it
all
had
these.
pulled back. Remember, if you look at the daily chart, it had pulled back because we had a bit of a sell-off, so it was down. So if you look at the daily chart, there's a lot of support. Say the low was around 85. So between 85 and say between 80 85, there's a lot of support. This had come down to 100, so they were kind of testing the consolidation that occurred in August and September. So it would make sense that it could bounce. On a daily chart, the resistance right now would be around 140, 142. So that gives you a sense for its bounce, but still a fair amount of overhead resistance.
Yeah. How is that looking on like maybe the blast? Because it's definitely been consolidating for a little bit.
Okay, yeah, let's look at blast. That's a good idea. So you'd have to have a move above 120. So even
Okay.
if I change this to a 5 minute chart, just to just for the fun of it, let's go to a 5 minute chart, and you see that on a 5 minute chart you would have an entry, right? Because
Right.
the entry would be say between around 106, let's say generously, but
Yeah.
maybe a little bit below 106.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody just joining in, there are links in the description to one, sign up for TrendSpider, get the platform for just $5. And then a bunch, like 4 of Chande's indicators that we're using here on the charts are going to be part of the Black Friday sale bundle. You're going to be able to get them for free for 6 months. So links down below if you guys want to test out these indicators. It's literally just $5 right now. Oh, wow. Go ahead and pull up a OXY Tushar. This one is actually starting to move to the downside now.
Downside, and the same thing with core weave. So
We've, yep.
that's part of the problem, because what happens is there's not enough liquidity. If somebody comes in and decides to
Yeah.
unload like a largest position, you can easily jerk the market around. So that's kind of the disadvantage, that as a smaller trader, not a sort of $50 billion hedge fund, then you got to kind of worry about that.
Yeah. So would you recommend for most retail traders to use the daily chart as opposed to day trading?
Now you have to be very careful. You have to, when you talk of day trading, you're trading what's called information flow. So, for example, earnings is information flow, and information flow could help you or hurt you. But for example, let's say uh, Nvidia reports in 2 weeks or something, and let's say that they have a great report. I have no idea. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
And then the market moves say 5% or 4%. Then the move has already occurred overnight. So by the time it opens in the morning, as an individual trader, you'd be getting in. You have missed the overnight move, and all
Yeah.
the people that made money overnight are basically getting out at the open or close to the open when you're trying to get in. So they've made their money and they're getting it, by when you buy it, they're getting liquidity when you buy it, if you bought it at the open or near the open. So that's kind of the downside. But the upside is that you have a much longer holding period. So the average amplitude of the movement is going to be much greater for the individual trader than for the overnight or short-term trader or the information flow trader.
Yeah, no, makes complete sense. Complete sense. 'Cause, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's basically you're trading like news events. But what about just like a normal day with no news? Are you still?
Well, you have to trade something that has a lot of liquidity,
Yeah,
and something like QQQ, or
or like the
there
futures? Yeah,
or the or the leverage products in and around TQQ, or it's like
yeah,
TQQ. But
right.
these are very volatile products, and I really don't recommend them for the individual trader, because you're more likely to run into trouble than not. So let's take a step back. So we're not talking of one trade or two trades. We're talking of hundreds of trades.
Yeah,
So when you think of your trading process or career, you shouldn't think of saying, I'm going to make one trade or 10 trades and that's it. I'm going to be set for the rest of my life. So you have to think of, I'm going to make hundreds of trades, and what process would you follow to make hundreds of trades? Now, again, if you're just going to be buy and hold, then that's one trade, because then your holding period is 5 decades or 3 decades or something. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking of holding periods for maybe a few weeks, a few days, a few months. So in that case, you need to have a process like an entry signal and an exit signal, because it'll be market rotation. A great example is Tesla. If you look at Tesla, or if you look at, say, CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill, over a long period of time, they had this gigantic move up, then that gigantic move down, then now they're
yeah,
coming
yeah,
up. Carvana is a fabulous example. gigantic move up, gigantic move down,
I
and
say
another gigantic
Carvana.
move up. Carvana,
Yeah,
CVNA.
that was crazy. That has been a crazy
So
mover.
right. So I think, you know, not many people will be willing to hold through very large amplitude moves, uh, even if you're a long-term trader. So my
Mhm.
suggestion is to use some process that gives you a longish holding period, but you have some reason to get out. That's based on a technical uh, model or a technical process, to be a moving average or whatever, rather than, you know, just holding and sitting through lots and lots of volatility.
Yeah, no, definitely like creating a process to get you through it because, sometimes like, for example, Carvana, like if you're following the initial trend up and you had no system in place for an exit, you would have been sitting down, minus like 90% or whatever for a while. And, like indicators like yours, it makes it really easy to know when it's trending up and then when that trend breaks so you can get out and minimize or like reduce the chance of you, sitting through those several years or whatever it was of just,
Well, let me give you my painful story. I used to work for GE at the R&D center when I first got my PhD. So
Mhm.
I of course I had I got GE stock as an employee, etc., etc., and I held it from there all the way down when it got down to $4, and I've held it all the way back when it's making new all-time highs.
Yeah.
So I have sat through some, massive swings in equity,
Oh yeah, I
and
believe it.
you can't do that every single holding in your portfolio.
For sure. For sure. Sometimes, as a long-term investor, sometimes you kind of just have to do that, um,
But I
if you're
mean,
planning to hold forever. I mean, I guess it depends on your overall goals and strategies, but ooh, we just got a big move up on RKLB. I think the numbers just came out for them, by the way.
yes, I
See
see
it on
a
my
move up
top
to
left chart
54.
over here. Pretty big
54.
move. Let's see.
Yeah.
That one is up. No, about 3.6% and
Yep.
higher. Oh, about 5% now.
5%.
Yep. Yeah. So big move there. Looks looking good for them so far. In just a second here, we'll take a look at the actual numbers. But it looks like probably most of the actual price moves have materialized so far. We'll take a look at RKLB on this 1 minute chart for just a little bit. And if you guys are out there in the chat, just joining in again, we have Tushar Chande up here. He's a former CTA, big trader. Has been, creating custom indicators and just trading in the year since, what do you say, 94. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat below. We're going to be covering all these moves, specifically these earnings moves going forward here in just a second on the longer term time frames. After we see all these moves, taking a look at the numbers. And yeah, just make sure you guys subscribe and use the links below to import Chande's indicators onto the TrendSpider platform. Again, we have our Black Friday sale. You can try most of these indicators for just $5 using the link below to sign up for TrendSpider for $5. And 4 of Chande's indicators are going to be free for you for 6 months. So we really appreciate that, by the way, Tushar, for making all these awesome premium indicators for free for our users. But yeah, great to have you on.
Thank you for
But
having
yeah,
me. And I just encourage people to try it because you don't necessarily have to trade it, but you can follow along. You can understand how they work, what the logic
yeah,
is, and so
yeah,
on.
yeah, 100%. And you really put trend following into these indicators that make it really easy, especially for like beginners, just to understand, which I think is incredible. Um, you know, as trading, like I haven't been trading, nearly as long as Tushar, but so I've always had charts and whatnot, but just the evolution of trading has been actually very crazy. Like just before even like Robinhood existed, you used to have to pay, like a lot of money just to buy a stock. And the fact that it's free now, like there's so many different things strategies you can try. You can actually day trade like with small amounts of money without having to worry about fees. So,
Right. The technology has changed a lot, but the
yeah.
markets have not. So the markets can
Yeah.
be random when they're trending. Okay, so let's take a step back. So there are three questions you have to be able to answer for any trade. Where do I get in? Where do I get off or get out? And how much do I, allocate to this trade? So obviously, in terms of allocation, you could go 0% or 100% of your total trading capital, which maybe, but typically you would do a few percent, 2, 3, 4%, in order to be cautious. And
Right.
then what my indicators do is they give you a systematic process, like an entry rule and an exit rule. And now it all boils down to, are you willing to do testing? And testing is a whole other can of worms. So I encourage you to learn to test and try things out on your own. Because what happens is you can test it and the rules are robust because there's no optimization involved. And it'll give you a certain performance in terms of average winning trade, average losing trade, percentage of winning trades. But that's historical data. And the problem is you can test over 20 years of data in 20 milliseconds. But
Yeah,
when you
that's
start
insane.
trading, it only moves at 1 minute, 60 minutes an hour. It's very, 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 very slow.
Yep.
And are you going to be able to stick to the system? And all the people who don't make money trading fail, quote, because they're not sticking to any set of rules. They don't believe in anything.
Yep. They're just
And the
kind of
market will
buying
ask
it.
you every single day, what do you believe? What do you believe? And that's what the markets do. And if you don't believe in anything, the market will find out very quickly.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And the fact that you can like hop in and trade with small amounts of capital, and you've done so much of the work for us retail traders now too. Is just like, I mean, you have like all these indicators that you have with actual entry and exit systems that you already coded and built into the platform.
Right.
So really, you're giving them tools that all they have to do, at least as a beginner, to just follow them and see how trend following systems work. Which is really one of the hardest parts, is coming up with an idea. How do I make a trailing stop? Where is the entry?
Right.
Uh, you have to code it all and set it up. And on TrendSpider, you can actually use our strategy tester with these custom indicators, and like you're saying, back test them over 20 years or whatever of data in literally seconds. It was actually insane.
It
So
is. And
trying
the important thing to remember is that there's a big difference between testing and trading.
yeah,
So testing makes assumptions and its own can of worms, and you do whatever, and you say, okay, great, I'm going to use this process. Now, how long are you going to use this process? Are you going to use it for 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, one decade? And then there'll be pressure to say, okay, are you improving it, updating it, making it better?
yeah,
Where's your research? So there are a lot of conflicting forces pulling you in different directions, which is why something like trend following makes a lot of sense for the individual trader, because it gives you a certain process. You buy strength, you avoid weakness, you have
yeah.
well-defined entry points and exit points, and then all you have to do is manage your risk. So I think it makes sense for the individual trader, though it may not have the glamour of trading some meme stock or whatever.
Yeah, of course, of course. That's the thing, there's a lot of systems like trend following, and I'm have a trend following strategy I use myself, and it does get boring. It's not anything that's super fun, like trading, with a systematic approach. And it can be fun when you get those big winners, but overall, it's just repeating the same system over and over again every day.
Right. I mean, if let's just take a look at gold, GLD, just for the
Yeah,
fun of it. So gold is an example of uh, a metal. Let's put weekly data because that I think shows it very nicely. So if you look at the week, this I have GLD on my screen. I don't know if you can see
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
I put it back up.
yeah. So imagine you have this beautiful trend that keeps going higher, and then you have confirmation down here because you're using the absolute trend strength, and that's in the green region and 100 a lot of the times. And if I put the Ishan indicator, this is another one of my indicators. I'll just and you see this has been straight up at 100 all the way across. So there's no doubt that the trend is strong. And you can see
Mhm.
that even the yellow dots are outside the green, are in the green region. So now, would you have the patience to just say buy it here or there or there or there, and sit through all the news and just don't know where it's going to go, keep following the trend?
Yeah, you definitely need patience as a trend follower. That's one thing for sure. Because some of these big movers, uh, like what's the longest you think? I guess there's no really time limit that you should maybe use as a trend follower, but like you can sit on some of these trades for like years, right? Months, years.
It could be months, it may not be years, but could be
Yeah,
months. But
yeah,
the thing is, you need to have a process that tells you where to get in and where to get out,
for
right?
sure.
Because otherwise, how do you know the trend has ended? And the trend has ended because prices have come down and hit your trailing stop.
Yep.
So my if you want to make money, for the long term, I think trend following makes a lot of sense, and it deserves some space in your portfolio. Now, you may not trade all of your money using trend following, but I
Right.
understand.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. And real quick, now that it's about 25 after, I'm just going to pull up my screen and just
Okay,
cover some of these earnings that were announced
sure.
today. Looks like RKLB beat on EPS by 70% and also
Excellent.
beat on revenue. So double beat there for RKLB. Very nice. And we'll take a look at the technicals of these in just a second. But real quick, looks like RKLB and after hours is up quite a bit. So congrats if you're holding RKLB. That's a very, very nice move. And you can see our reports tab over here clearly shows that it was a double beat. ASTS, one of the next most hyped stocks that was reporting today. Looks like it's down in after hours. And, numbers wise, it looks like they had a miss on both fronts. Let me confirm that here. Yeah, pretty bad EPS miss on ASTS. And while the revenue grew year over year, which isn't saying much just because the company is very new, it did have a miss on revenue. So not very good there. And they are down in after hours. What else do we got? RGTI. Take a look at the chart right here. It looks like it's down a little bit in after hours. Nothing too bad though, but it looks like revenue may have missed an EPS beat. So let's see here. Yeah, so EPS beats and revenue miss. So one number beat on RGTI. CoreWeave, CRWV. Looks like a double beat from what Sidekick is telling us. By the way, this is our Sidekick AI. All I did for this was I gave it all the tickers that were reporting earnings today and just said, make me a table of how they did. And it just did that very quickly. It connects to all of our data. I don't know if you've tried this out, Tushar, but it's actually a really nice tool, especially for us technical traders that don't really look at fundamentals a lot. It kind of is able to summarize all this stuff very quickly and easily. So CRWV, pretty flat in after hours there. And finally, BBAI looks like they had a beat on EPS and a beat on revenue. So, and wow, BBAI is up pretty good here in
15% or
after
something.
hours. Yeah, almost. They at one point they're up about 16%. So I'll put the stage back on you, Tushar. Maybe if you have want to look at the daily charts, kind of just looked at the numbers and the intraday charts. But wow, some pretty cool moves there on what BBAI
Yeah.
and what was the other big mover? RKLB. So those are the
Right.
biggest
Okay, so
movers.
let's look at the 5 minute charts first, just for
Yeah,
completeness. So you
yeah.
see that we have very nice the green area, green band is sort of our upper level breakout, and we have a breakout because it's outside the bands and it's painted green, and our trailing stop right now is say at 566, 568.
Mm-hmm.
So very slow, very it's not too far, but it's still far-ish away. And if you
Yeah.
look at Rocket Lab, same thing, strong breakout. Now it's trading well outside the upper band, so definitely a breakout. And then if you take a little bit longer picture, we have some highs in the 54, 55 area, clearly above that, so a breakout. And and again, trend strength here is 100, and Ishan is at 100. So yeah, strong move up on a 5 minute chart. So let's look at the daily chart just to get a little bit different picture of how things are evolving.
Yep.
This is Rocket Lab. So Rocket Lab made a high above 70, say around 75, 74.
Mm-hmm.
It pulled back, and then it went a little bit below the band for a day or a day or two, and it was bouncing back up. And now it's at 55, 74. So it's in the neutral region. The chats indicator is neutral, and then the Ishan indicator that's 50. So on a daily chart, it doesn't seem like any biggie because it's just come back into the consolidation.
Right.
And really, until you break out above these highs, it's not really a major breakout. So, also the short-term traders have some money to make, and presumably you'll open much higher. So if you bought it tonight, you can sell near the open and lock in some very nice profits. But on the other hand, on a daily chart, it's just ho-hum move, and it's back in the neutral zone in the middle of the consolidation, so can't really get too excited.
Yeah,
And
kind of
then in
lost its
terms of
trend there.
BBAI, same thing, quite a similar chart. It had this all-time high, and then it tried to go back about three-quarters of the way up, but still a lot of resistance here between say 875 and say 950 if you wish. And then we were below the lower band, so that means the trend is lower. The Ishan momentum is at minus 100, and then the longer term view in terms of the chance indicator is neutral. So again, nothing much to get excited about. Can't really
Yeah.
say that the daily trend is up yet.
Right.
So that's a good example of how, depending on the time frame that you use, you'll get a different
For
meaning
sure.
for the question, or different answer to the question: is it trending?
Yeah. No, it's very important. Very important. The difference between like a 1 minute chart and a 5 minute chart, and then you look at the daily, like obviously there's a massive move here on earnings. But when you really zoom out, you kind of see that, well, it's really just coming back up to really probably resistance, or it's not really trending anymore. And if you're trend following, using, one of Chande's indicators here, you really just want to be in when the background of the color of the candles is painted that nice green color there on the paraband indicator, and just follow the trend while it's there. And right now it's in a neutral zone. So, from a trend following perspective, not really much to do, right? Other
Yeah,
than look
let's
for
look at the
other
blast
opportunities.
indicator for a
Yeah.
second,
Yeah.
because this is a counter trend entry, and you see that we
Right.
have a close above the green line, if you will, which is the trigger line. So if you wanted to buy counter trend, you could say try to buy above the high here, say buy at say 675 or something. But then the question becomes, okay, I'm in, where do I exit? And the trailing stop here would be below, it's at about 562 or something. So that'll
Yeah.
be your exit point. So you get an entry point, you get an exit point, and then it's a matter of how much you want to allocate to the trade. And depending on how conservative you want to be, you might want to wait a day, like make sure that there's a low above the trigger line, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
it's
Because
just a
if you
matter
turn
of
off
how aggressive you want to be.
Yeah, because if you turn off the after hours data there, technically, the market isn't open yet. Anything could
Right.
happen until,
Correct.
and it's, yeah. So,
Right. So I turn
um,
off the data, you see we're still below the line. So it's
yeah.
only when you include the after hours do you get a movement outside the line. So
Mhm.
it'll be fair to wait a day, see what happens tomorrow, because it could open higher and close lower and whatnot. So it's just a matter of how aggressive you want to be.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you usually wait for daily closes before confirming these signals, or do you sometimes enter intraday if it closes above, the line?
Right. Yeah, I typically I like to say I'm an end of day trader. What that means
Yeah,
is that I will not make a decision intraday except to exit. On my entries,
right,
I'll wait for the end of the day, and so I rather enter tomorrow on strength rather
right.
than try to be rushed to get in, because again, if the trend is going to continue, the little difference in entry just buys me a little extra defense. Because for example, if you think of a one trade, you might say, oh, it's kind of slow to enter. But if you think of 100 trades or 1,000 trades, sometimes you could open higher, you could be higher in after hours and lower tomorrow
Yeah,
on the regular session.
yeah.
So it'll filter out those kind of things.
It makes it a little bit easier too, because I'm the same way. I run a scanner, looking for these
Right.
daily closes, and you have
Right.
all night to make your decisions. You're not
Right.
sitting there intraday like, oh, this one's breaking out now, and then maybe it fails throughout the day. But then you can have all night, plan your trades for the next day, and it's just, pretty easy to follow, I would say. So,
Right. And
yeah.
the other thing is also you have to remember there's a money management aspect to it, right? So
Hmm.
you also have to decide how much you want to allocate to this trade
Of
or any
course.
other trade. So as long as you have sort of a systematic process, then what the allocation should be. Whereas if you're doing it in real time, there's always a little emotion involved.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Curious on maybe your thoughts on how many positions that you would normally take. What percent of your portfolio would you
right,
take? Would you use a percentage of your account? Would you base it on the stock's volatility, or
right. Okay. So those are very good questions, and if, you can test all of those. So depending on
right?
those of you who are willing to learn and do testing, you can test all of those. Now, as a general principle, I don't like to have more than say 15 to 20 positions, because it's just
Okay.
harder to manage. When I was a
Yeah.
trader, I used to have like 50 positions, and there's in the futures markets, I had to change stops every day, and it's just like you know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work to keep up with a lot of positions. So For the individual trader, I'd say 5 to 10 positions is enough. If you go to like 50 positions, chaos. It'll be very difficult to manage 50 positions.
Definitely.
I mean, there's automation and all of that. So it depends on how much automation you're willing to do. But
Yeah.
for most traders, say 10 to 15 positions is sufficient. Anything more than that, and you need some level of automation. So that's sort of that part of it.
No,
In terms of
definitely. And
allocation, it's sort of up to you. If you think of 10 positions and you say, well, you can have 10%, but I would say I'd be a little more conservative. I would maybe go to 5%. So you sort of have to decide what your how much risk you're willing to take on any given position. And so, of course, that depends on where your stop is. Are you a buy and hold trader? Are you just, for example, obviously, if you're an IRA or something, you don't, you're just buying and holding. You don't really care. There's no stop as such. And
yeah.
but of course, if you're using a stop, then you got to think about how much you're willing to lose and so forth.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, with TrendSpider, you can actually connect your account, like your actual brokerage account, or just, get alerts, and you can set alerts based on your indicators. So like, for example, if you just enter this, Oxy trade manually, like right here, or even like this morning on this daily break above the this line, and you wanted to automate your exit, you could just right click this line here, create an alert, and then, click breakthrough, touch, or bounce, or whatever it is. Set your confirmation candles to like something low, like the 10 minutes, so you can get out intraday. And then you can actually be alerted, automatically for when your stop is hit. And if you connect your broker with Signal Stack, you can put in a note here that actually sends an order to your broker to close out of the position. So you can actually, semi-automate your stuff with TrendSpider, which is very cool. And I think we just lost Chande right there. He might be back in a sec. I think he might have accidentally left. But yeah, basically, Chande has his indicators here, and all of them, I believe all of them that I've seen, like he was saying, if you have a lot of positions, you can, semi-automate the process by just right-clicking on any of the lines, creating an alert on them, and then you can get a text message sent to you for when the stop loss is hit. Or, of course, you can use Signal Stack to actually close out of the trade inside of your broker for you, which really, again, if you have like 10, 20 positions, it makes managing them actually pretty bearable. And, of course, you can set up trading bots that never expire as well if you build an entire strategy out of all of these symbols or these indicators. But if you guys are still out there, we'll see if Tushar comes back. I don't know if he had to go or if he just lost connection. I'm assuming he lost connection, but if you're still out there, hit the like button and subscribe. Tushar has actually been a great guest for us. He has so many indicators here on our platform. So, really blessed to have his thoughts on the markets and all these stocks that just reported earnings. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to leave them down in the chats below. But I just pulled up again this multi-symbol view here again, so we can see what's going on. Again, it looks like ASTS has moved up a bit since the close. Oxy here, the 1 minute's kind of hard to read. We'll go to the 5 minute. Yeah, 5 minute even looks pretty illiquid there, but pretty much flat since close, maybe a little bit down. There's Tushar. Let me let him back in.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Some of my power dropped out or something.
Yeah, no worries. I figured might have lost connection or something. Yeah, no worries.
I don't know what happened. I'll have to get my TrendSpider on. Give me a second. But
Yeah, no problem.
I
have mine up on the screen for the meantime. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm curious on your thoughts on like, are you still actively trade your own account?
Yes. I put on very large positions, so that's part of my challenge.
Love that.
You have to manage your emotions. You have to manage the P&L. You have to manage the risk when you're traveling. You're not traveling. You're at home. You're not at home. You're in your office. Not in your
Definitely.
office.
So it's a big part of it. Yeah.
It's when I was trading, it was very hard for me to travel on weekdays because there's so much trading to be done, and then because I traded Pacific Rim. So I mean, you have to manage so many things and plus you have client money and so forth, and there's regulatory overhead and whatnot. But yeah, I put on very large positions, and
nice.
but it takes You need a when you talk to me, you can't really tell whether I'm making money or losing money. And that's the
Mhm.
difference between someone like me who's been a pro for a long time versus somebody that maybe hasn't traded for that long a period of time. I could be up huge in a day and you couldn't tell, and I could be down huge in a day and you wouldn't be able to tell.
Right. It's just another day, right? It's just whatever the
Yeah,
market
I've
gives
been
you, you got to take.
I've had very large up days and very large down days, and you just
I'm sure.
you have to find a way to deal with success and failure. I mean, gains and losses.
Yeah. It's much easier when you're following a system. I'm curious. I don't want to get too much into your actual personal trades, but do you use any specific indicator or use a combo of the indicators that you have?
Yeah,
Like
the
what is
power
your
band
actual
is a good
process?
example of what I like to do.
Which one?
Because it really um, it really gives you a sense for how I trade. The power band indicator,
Okay.
the blast indicator also is a very good example of how I trade.
Nice.
Meaning I enter counter trend, but I have a relatively tight trailing stop. Um, Mostly now, think of it this way. Uh, if you say that if you there are different styles of trading, but some people only trade say 5 stocks, then life is easy because you don't you just have to worry about those 5 stocks. But
Yeah.
suppose I tell you pick one stock out of one. Oh, no problem, anyone can do it. But if you pick one out of 5,000, well, it's a lot harder. But if you pick one
Definitely.
out of 10,000, it's even harder. So a
Mhm.
lot of my research is dedicated is so there are two parts of the problem. It's what you trade and how you trade. So
Mhm.
when you think of this indicator or that indicator, it's how you trade. But what you trade is actually more important than how you trade. So a lot of
Okay.
my energy really is focused on what to trade. And if you think of the chats indicator, that's an example. That's a filter to help you find what
Okay.
to trade. Or the
Okay. Yeah.
Ishan indicator is a filter that helps you find what to trade. So, yeah, like for example, today, if you look at earnings, wow, Rocket Lab, big move up. If you look at the daily chart, well, it's a big, well, it's just sort of the middle of the range. So I think that's really my focus has been like what to trade as opposed to how to trade, because there's so many indicators available. But basically, if you think of it very simply, you need an entry rule. So if this happens, I am entering. Then you have an exit rule. If that happens, I exit. And then you need a money management rule that for this thing, I'm going to I'll have 3% or 4% or whatever the magic number is for you to size the position.
Yeah. And so basically you're just looking for something like the Ishan indicator to be, is there any specific kind of like number you're looking for? You just want it to be,
100, like if you think of the
100.
chats
Okay.
indicator of
Yeah.
100 and Nishan at 100, then you say, wow, the trend is really strong. We don't know how long it's going to last, but at least I have a reason to enter. And once you
Yeah.
enter, then then you think about the exit and you think of money management.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So basically you're just filtering, all the stocks and finding the ones that are showing strength, of course, right? And then from
Right.
there, you apply an indicator that you use to determine your entries and your exits. Yeah.
Correct.
Cool
Right. And
stuff. Cool stuff.
so part of the so for example, if you look at if you do a search for uh, you know chats equal to 100 or chats greater than 99, you will
Yeah.
find the strongest stocks in the S&P 500 or whatever universe you want to use.
Yep. So
Yeah, so
looking
just
at
the index.
the
Yeah, that
index,
one. Right.
um,
Greater than or equal to 90, 95, let's say. Just
see
well, this is a
95.
high
Yeah.
value. And
Let's
if you do a
see.
scan
Let
and
me
you just
see if
click
I
on any one
can
of them,
put the actual indicator up here.
right?
Do have these
And
shown up.
you can delete the Ishan for now and just cleaner. And you can also delete the blast.
I think, okay.
You can delete blast. That's that. We can turn it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now this picks a. You'd have to.
Yeah. So ATMU. I believe this one has the candles green when it's
Right.
a
You can
valid
put the
signal.
chats indicator lower. Chats lower.
Let me see. There it
Lower.
is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, there.
See
Perfect.
now it's at 100. So it's trending. And then you can put the power band or something that confirm that it's trending, and then you have an exit, and then off you go. So
Gotcha.
there you So now you have an entry point, you have an exit point. Now it's just a matter of, do you like it enough to trade it, and then do you have enough, whatever capital allocation you choose.
Interesting. Yeah, very cool setup. And that's a very useful insight there. It's more or less what you trade, and it's very interesting and very useful for me, like I'm sure everybody and me too, is how you filter out that and using the chats indicator or whatever it may be, relative strength, to find basically you're just looking for the strongest stocks, right, to follow the trend.
Yes, right. Now remember, we are looking back over, say, 100 bars or whatever, but there's still some uncertainty about how it's going to move in the future. So that's why,
Yeah.
what you trade is more important than how you trade. But once you're in a trade, then you got to be able to, have an exit point. Look at APH. I mean, it has been moving fabulously higher.
Move, right?
Or look at GLW, another should be there somewhere. GLW doesn't have chats of 100, but just had an incredible trend up.
Was it VOW?
No, GLW,
Oh, GLW.
Oh, you can try Lily. That's fine. GLW has had a great trend, but you see that it's been consolidating recently. But it was at 100 for the duration of the trend, right? When it had a huge breakout, the chats indicator was at 100.
No, yeah, very nice trend there. Wow.
Yeah, you can change the color. If you change the color of the trailing stop to white or something, it'll be easier to see, or yellow.
Okay, let's see if I go to the paraband here.
Right, and then you see the LX stop in the second row.
LX stop, yeah.
Right, and you
Make it stand out a little bit. Perfect.
Yeah, so it stands out.
Oh, almost just basically bounced right off of it right there.
Right.
So you probably
So now
still
you can think of it, if you're thinking counter trend, you can say, well, this is trending. I'll get a counter trend entry. I can buy. It's near and my stop is relatively tight. So your relative risk is low, quote. But if it trends higher, you've got a good entry point. So that's an example of buying on weakness. So it's a counter trend entry, right? Whereas if you had bought it when it first broke out, then you were made a new high. You bought the new high.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, this stock was obviously a great entry, like over back here, like maybe here in the chats, candle colors went green, but what are your thoughts on, like, maybe, I don't know, you missed the signal at first, or like maybe it's like trading here or trading here? Would that still be an entry you take, or you just
you just buy it? I mean, so if you look, we don't know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah.
So you can either miss the trend. So okay, this is a very interesting point. So if you buy a trend and it reverses, then you're going to get out on the trailing stop. So your risk is known. But if you miss a trend, you don't know how much money you could have made that you didn't make now because you didn't take the trade. So the cost of missing an opportunity is greater than the cost of having a losing trade.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the hardest things is, as a trend follower, is, it's already up, but then you're buying it. Almost seems like, maybe it's gonna go down, Yeah.
No, so this is a mindset question. So if you think of Wall Street has a counter trend mindset. Value is basically a counter trend entry. It is not good value. The stock is moving faster, so it's come down 10%. So is that good value? It's come down 50%. Is that good value? So on and so forth. So I think that the cost of missing an opportunity is greater than the cost of taking a trade when you look at a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so I go back to where I was, and what you trade is more important than how you trade.
Yeah.
Because
so as long as these things are true,
I'm sorry.
So as long as these things are true, it's at 100, you're in an uptrend, it's good.
Yeah. And you don't know where it's going to go. So you put on your position, you take a small amount of risk. And because if you take a step back again, there's no shortage of opportunities.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to say that, oh my God, like if you think of the AI trade writ large, there's a fair amount of correlation between them, because if you look at Sandisk, you look at WDC, the chip guys are trending, and then the memory guys are trending, and Hynix are trending. So the AI trade writ large is trending, with some pullbacks along the way. TSM, if you look at the chart of TSM and NVIDIA, they look basically the same. So the point is, you can find good entry points, and even if you don't find the good entry point, the cost of missing may be greater than the cost of a bad entry. So manage your risk, get in there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because there's going to be times when there's probably a lot less entries, right? Like when we're in downtrends, like maybe like the COVID crash. Yeah.
So that's where the para band paints it green or red. If it's red, you ignore it. So let's say
Yeah.
that let's say that you were in 2021 and 2022 when the market was in a downtrend and an important downtrend. Then what's going to happen? Most of the prices are going to be red,
Yep.
right?
Like
So if
red.
they're red, you can just stay out of it.
Yep.
Like you can sit in cash and collect whatever thing, and you don't have to worry about. There's no anxiety because you're completely out of the
Yeah.
market.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
I mean, like, of
100%.
course, you may have some portion in the market. I'm saying just in terms of your trading account, you can just say if it's red, I'm out of it.
Yep.
Or as if it's red, it's dead to me. So I'm not going to get in there. So
Yeah.
again, it's a more cautious approach to the market, but it keeps you on the right side of the trend.
Nice. And do you have any sort of like regime filter, or are you just looking at each stock individually?
Yes,
And
I don't have
based
any regime filters. I don't have any. So these indicators are robust. What I mean by that is there's
Mhm.
no market specific indication, no market
Yeah.
specific information. Like the indicator doesn't know that it's trading soybeans or soybean
Yeah.
oil or Tesla or anything else. So
No, makes sense. Makes sense. But yeah, you guys, pretty interesting insights here. Chande was saying he uses this chats indicator here and finds strength using that. And TrendSpider, for example, or other platforms, maybe if they have chats, you can basically build a scanner. It's really easy on TrendSpider. You just put chats index is greater than 95 and press scan. You can throw that in a watch list. I just put it in the entire NYSE composite and searched, and just like that, we have a whole list of stocks that are good to trade based on the
and then
chats.
if you click on the dots, you can actually also choose to display the value of the chats indicator. On
Oh
the
yeah.
if you look at the not over there, but if you're in the scan, the results of the
Oh.
scan, the three dots on the result of the scan next to the
Uh-huh.
charge sheet, yeah, like click on that, and it'll show you. It allows you, if you just go down, you can show
Right.
the chat index
Yep.
level. Yeah,
Yep.
click on that, and then run the scan again.
There you go.
See, now
And
it
you can
shows you the
sort it.
value of the chats indicator, and now you can
Yep.
sort it by chats value,
Nice.
right? So now,
Incredible.
you click on that. It's like it's trending. There's no doubt it's trending. But of course, as usual, we don't know how far the trend is going to go or how long it's going to last. But you don't have to worry about is it trending. It answers the question: is it trending?
And that's all you need, right? And then other than that, it's an available entry. Then you just set where you want to exit and size appropriately, and you're good. Makes sense. Yeah, very insightful, Tushar. This has been amazing. Like to me personally, and I'm sure everyone out there listening. So it's been amazing having you. I know we've been live for a little bit over an hour now, so I don't want to keep you too long.
Okay.
But maybe I'll just end on a kind of a broad question. Like if you had to give yourself, back in the day, or even just the people watching now, just like a general piece of advice for trading or trend following, maybe specifically, what would it be?
Be an optimist. So the hardest thing to be is to be an optimist because the market is pushing back against you. 1,000 people telling you it can't go higher, it's going to go lower, that this is wrong and that's wrong, and 50 other things. So I think
Yeah.
you have to be an optimist. You have to kind of think long term. You must trade with a trailing stop, and use good risk control. I mean, you don't have 100% of your portfolio in one stock, but you know it's a cash 22. But for most individuals, like be reasonable, 10-15%. Okay, you don't want to go like 50% in one stock, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And focus on what to trade.
Awesome. And clearly, Shonda has built all the tools for us to do that. You can use the chats indicator, and you can access all of Tushar's indicators using, and you can sign up for TrendSpider for just $5. If you're a new trader, you want to get into it, try out the platform. It's our Black Friday sale. It's a great time to do it. And thanks to Tushar, you can get access to 4 of his, many indicators we have for free for 6 months. So really appreciate that, Tushar. I'm sure a lot of people will find a lot of value in this. So yeah, definitely take a look at these indicators. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. And that's probably going to do it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Tushar.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for
Anytime.
having me, and thank you for everybody for joining in. And
Yeah,
TrendSpider is a fabulous platform, so I hope you'll
appreciate
try
it.
it. It's really amazing, so can't go wrong.
Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. Well, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Same to
All right.
you. Have a good afternoon, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay, bye.
afternoon. Yeah. Bye, everybody.